Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about OpenAI's developer platform. More specifically, we're going to talk about the speech-to-text capabilities that they have. What you'll notice is that I'm on platform.openai.com, which is the developer portal for us folks who want to integrate with OpenAI's capabilities. So if you want to be a part of the OpenAI movement that's going on, then what you need to do is you need to go over to platform.openai.com and you need to sign up. It's free to sign up for an account, and you can start looking at some of their developer documentation. And like I said, what I want to do here in this video is talk specifically about the speech-to-text capability. And so OpenAI provides two endpoints, and you can read all this on their site. One's transcriptions and the other one's translations. I'm only going to focus on the transcriptions part. And what I think I've done is provided a sample application that's sort of out of the box. I think when most people think about OpenAI's speech-to-text capabilities, they're going to go immediately to, we'll just transcribe what I've said and turn that into a prompt and then let, OpenAI's text generation give me an answer or try to generate some text for me about that subject matter. Well, what I want to propose to you all is another product idea where perhaps we could help people learn how to read English. And so not only will we focus on the text or speech-to-text capabilities, but we'll also use the text generation capabilities here. And these are the ones that you're probably more familiar with if you use ChatGPT. You're behind the scenes, the user interface is calling this API to, have chat completions. And so that's pretty much the fundamental API that most people will be interested in, is passing prompts to it and getting back. But we're gonna take a look at the speech-to-text capabilities once again. So with that, let's take a quick look at the little sample application that I've put together for us that highlights that, we don't just need to transcribe what people are saying, but perhaps we could transcribe and use that for another product idea. And so with that, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the little sample application that I've put together for us to demonstrate the speech-to-text capabilities as well as the chat completions API capabilities from OpenAI. So once our little web application loads up here, the first thing that we do is we ask OpenAI's chat completion to generate us a short reading passage based off of a mystery book. And we ask it to return the source. Where did you get this passage from? And so it'll include the author, the source, the reason for the selection. And then we return just a short passage for the user to read. We provide a start reading button that captures the audio, and that's the second part here, is that we're capturing the audio. And then the third step is we'll take that captured audio, pass it back to an API to do the speech to text. And then we'll also take advantage of the chat completions API once again to ask if there's any suggestions for this reader. Maybe they mispronounced a word, maybe they don't understand a word, and so it'll provide suggestions back. So with that, I'm going to intentionally misread some of these words, mispronounce some things, and see what the chat completions API tells us. And we'll see how accurate the speech to text was when I'm, mispronouncing words. Or Here we go. The butcher was found dead in the sturdy of a knife. So right now, we're analyzing the reading, which means we've captured the audio. We've sent it back to our API that's then talking to OpenAI's speech-to-text capabilities. And then it's taking the translation that it got, and it's matching it up with the passage that we sent in, and we're asking the chat completions API, hey, do you have any suggestions on how to read? So this is just showing that the GPT-4 model is really robust in so many ways, including how do humans learn? How do we read, right? This is really, it's interesting. It's interesting to know, just the depth of what the GPT-4 model has for us. And so what you'll see is this is the original passage here, and this is what I read, and I butchered it pretty good, and the speech to text seemed to do a really good job of what I said. And you'll see that the suggestions here, practice the pronunciations of words, phonics, focus on the correct pronunciation of the sounds "b" and stuff, right? So it's like I said, it's really interesting stuff for me, at least, being someone who's worked in building learning management systems for quite some time, that the OpenAI capabilities in the GPT-4 model, just the depth and breadth of the knowledge that it has, it's incredible. So great. I know you're all here not to talk about products and advancements of the GPT-4 model, but about looking at code. So all right, let's jump into it. Let's look at some code. All right, before we start looking at the code, there's one more thing that we have to do to make this code work, and that is we need an API key from OpenAI. To do that, go to platform.openai.com and go ahead and sign up, register your account. Once you log in, you'll see a little icon over here, a little lock, and next to it, it says API keys. What you'll do is you go ahead and click on that, and we'll want to set up a new secret key. You do that just by pressing the create new secret key button here. Great. You'll see I already have a key set up, and that's the key that I'm going to be using in my little sample project here that I have set up for us. Once you have that, you'll be ready to start diving into the code. The code is available for you on GitHub. You're free to use the code however you would like as an example reference, or however you'd like to work with it. It's yours. Perfect. So once you've checked out the project, you'll notice that we have two folders set up. We have a client folder, which is our user interface. It's the web page that we just saw earlier that lets you interface with our backend that we've created, which is our Python code that interacts with OpenAI's chat completion API and the speech to text API. Let's look at that. I think that's the most interesting part of this whole thing. So once you check out the code, you're going to need to create one file, and that file is the .env file. And you'll just put that underneath the server directory. In that file, you're going to need to put your API key that you just created over in OpenAI's developer platform. So that key that you need to add is OpenAI _API _key, and you're going to go ahead and paste in your key. I'll go ahead and delete this key out once the video is posted, but you're going to need to create this file for this project to work. All right, so the next thing that you'll notice under the server directory is we have an app.py file and we have a requirements.txt file. The requirement.txt are all of the dependencies that the project needs to run. You'll notice that we're using Fast API, and we'll use that to provide an HTTP based API for our client application to consume. You'll see that we have the OpenAI library, some other Python libraries, and we're also using Langchain, which I think is a really great tool to help you work with not only OpenAPI, but other large learning models. So, yeah. So that's our requirements. These are our dependencies for the project. And then lastly, what we have is the actual code that I put together for us to make our sample application run. Right off the bat, we'll do a quick recap. In our sample application, you'll remember there were 3 steps. The first step is we wanted to get a reading passage for our user, and then we wanted to capture the audio, and then we wanted to analyze what the user read out loud. So the first step in that process is we need to get a passage. And so what I've done here is I've created a template message is what I'm calling this. This is to interface with the completion API from OpenAI. What this is doing here is this is setting up a system message. There's 3 types of messages for the completion API. The first one is the system message, where you basically are setting up the persona of the message. And in my case, I'm saying you are a helpful English reading assistant who generates 10-word passages from books that are in the mystery category for a user to read only select mystery stories. So I'm limiting the scope for our assistant here. And so when I interface with the OpenAI API, I'm telling it that this is your persona. This is what you are. This is what you should be doing. And then I go on to give some other specific instructions. And then I also tell it to follow these following rules. All of this stuff can be read from the OpenAI's prompting documentation about how to get more specific and how to set rules so that when you're interacting with their API, how to help them out. One thing that's really important to note is that the OpenAI APIs are stateless. So they're not going to be keeping track of any state of previous messages and all that stuff. There's no memory involved. So in another video, we'll talk about how you can overcome that, and we'll look at embeddings and vector databases and all that stuff. But that's beyond the scope of this video. In this video, we want to take a look at how do we interface with a completion API, and how do we use this speech-to-text functionality. So once I've set up this persona, this system message, the only other message I need here is my user level message. And if we look at this method, it accepts one parameter called level. And what this level is it's indicating the user's ability to read. So as part of my message prompt up here, I also included these instructions. A user will pass in their reading level on a scale of 0 to 3. 0 indicating beginning English reading skills, and 3 is a highly proficient reader. The effect that this has is that OpenAI will find passages that are appropriate for our reading language. Now, it just so happens in the previous example that I was showing you working with our application, I was always passing in a 3, the proficient reader, and we were finding, readings from Sherlock Holmes and more advanced reading styles, right? So that's it, right? So we have our system message, and we have our user message, and then what we have here is prompts, right? We have our chat prompts, and so these are the 2 messages that we'll send in. We'll send in a system message, and we'll send in a human message. And then down here, what we're doing is we're working with Langchain. And so we'll take these messages, and then we pipe them into chat OpenAI. And now we're able to invoke the messages, which is basically we're now able to interface with OpenAI and get a response back from them. So once we invoke the message, we then get a response object back, and every response object will have a content attribute to it. Right here, we're simply passing or printing out what got returned to us, and then we are going to return the content. One other thing to note here is that I tell OpenAI to return me JSON. So you can read through the documentation. You can return all types of things, comma-separated lists, JSON, XML. You can pick the format. You can even give it examples of how the format should come back. Great. So that's step one. So when our client first loads, it goes and asks for a passage. I also, in the rules that I say, I tell it to return me the author, the source of the reading, and the reason why the passage got returned back, okay? And we saw that all earlier. Great. So that's our get. Super simple. Really easy to work with. So the next step would be to collect the audio, to have the user read it. And that's all handled in the client. And we'll look at the client code here in just a bit. But once we've collected the audio, then we pass that captured audio, those bytes, we pass that into another method that I've created here, which is a HTTP post called upload audio. And we've declared our method to look like this. It accepts two arguments. It accepts the uploaded file, and it also accepts the passage. The passage is the original passage that the user was asked to read. Now remember what I just said is that the OpenAI APIs are all stateless. They don't remember the last passage that we sent in. So we're going to need to help it. And so once again, I've set up a system message here where I'm saying, hey, you're an expert English reading teacher that understands how to create a plan for individuals that want to learn how to read English. You analyze an individual's results of reading a passage, and when the passage does not match the reading, you provide suggestions and areas to practice for the individual. This is where things get really interesting. This is where the GPT-4 model, it knows how we learn how to read. That is a pretty cool feature, right? It's just, it's not just, a system that, that understands certain things. It understands lower level concepts. So now that we've set it up, we've also asked it to return as JSON, and then we've provided our user message, which I'm calling human template is the name of this here. And I'm providing a passage, which is what did we ask the user to read, and then a reading. And this is where we're going to replace the reading. We're going to do the speech to text replacement and put this in as a parameter to be analyzed. And so what we're doing here is we're reading the contents of the uploaded audio file. We're getting the bytes from it, and we're setting a name on it. And then right here, we're processing the audio. This is where we're going to ask the OpenAI API for speech to text to say, hey, here's a buffer. Here's some binary, it's a binary audio file. I want you to transcribe it to text for me. And so what this method does here is it couldn't be any easier. This is the method down here. We take the bytes and we call OpenAI's API, and we pass in our file, the audio file that we captured from the browser, and we're telling it to use the Whisper 1 model. Great. Once we invoke this, we get access to a parameter called text, which is the actual translation, and we pass that back up to our, we return it, right? And so now we have accomplished speech to text right here. We've done speech to text. So now we're going to do the same thing that we did to get a passage. We're going to create an array of messages here again. And we're going to pass in our system message, which is, you're an expert teacher. We're going to pass in our human template, which is the original passage, plus the speech to text, the reading, what they did. And right here, we're going to set up Langchain again. And then we're going to invoke it, and we're going to invoke it with the original passage that these are set in. And then we're going to pass in the transcription. And then we're going to return the content of that, which will be the suggestion on how to read, any problems that it detected, So this is our backend API code. This is all that you need to interact with OpenAPI's chat capabilities and their speech-to-text capabilities. So that's our backend. Now, on the front end, things are pretty simple. We just have a one-page little SvelteKit application here that all it's doing is, it's in our page.svelte. All it's doing is, when it starts up on mount, we're asking for a passage. Right here, we ask to get a passage back, and I pass in level 3. So this is a more advanced user in our example. And then now we have the reading, the example on the screen. Next, when the user presses the start reading button, we start recording. This is where we're getting access to the browser's audio device, and we're capturing audio. We put that in, we buffer that, we put that into an array. And then once we're doing that right here, when the button's pushed, we do that for just a couple of seconds, 5 seconds. And then we wait for a couple seconds after the recording's done, and then we post it up for analysis. That's our function that we just took a look at for the upload audio. Great. After that, we show the results on the screen. We do that right here. We post up. We wait for the response back, and we set some attributes. The rest of the code is pretty just simple HTML here. That just has some various conditionings on whether we have objects and whatnot. This will be pretty easy to follow, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But that's our project there. You know, that's the whole code base. That's us working with OpenAI speech-to-text capabilities and their chat completion API as well. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give us a like, subscribe. If you got questions or uncertain about something that's not working for you, write something in the comment, and I'll make sure to get back to you. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed our time together. Take care. Bye.